Hi everyone and welcome to National Careers Week. So today I am joined by Sophie. Sophie is a physio in the NHS and she's going to tell us a little bit more about her role, what it involves and how she got to where she is now. So, hi Sophie.
Hi Jess, you all right?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yes, good, thank you.
Good. So could you just tell us what your job title is and a little bit about your role?
Yeah, so I'm a qualified physiotherapist and I work full-time in the NHS for Newcastle Hospital Trust. This is primarily working obviously in the healthcare section. I'm currently working in care of the elderly, but we'll soon be rotating to critical care. I also am a club physio for GB Women's Police Football Team, and also a player and club physio for Wallsend Boys Club.
That is amazing. I feel like it's so interesting with a physio, and I think this is probably something that students who are maybe thinking about going into physiotherapy, there are so many different ways that you can do it and so many different ways you can be involved. Obviously, like you've just said there, working for the NHS, kind of in hospital, but then also that pitch side role as well. So how did you decide that you wanted to go into physiotherapy?
It took quite a few years, to be honest. I first of all, I went and did my A-levels at sixth form. And my main vision was to be involved in sport at this point. So I played football like pretty much all my life, and I've always been interested like playing all kinds of sports. And I kind of visioned myself maybe as a PE teacher or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So I did these A-levels, and then I kind of became really focused on my football. And I had an opportunity to pursue like my education and football in America. So I actually went out there at the age of 18 and to Louisiana and did like my studies out there, which was insane. So basically,
Cool.
yeah, so obviously out there it's like you get a soccer scholarship, however good you are or what level you play at, you get a certain amount of funding that covers your education.
Right.
So I sort of did that for a little while, and then I realized as I was getting a bit older, I wasn't really learning the things that I wanted to learn out there. It was quite a different system for me. And I really was starting to think about what kind of career I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And a little bit less about the football side. So I came back home and I did an undergraduate degree at Northumbria in sport and exercise science.
Amazing.
So this was quite a good degree because it looked at several different modules. I learned about nutrition, sports psychology, biomechanics, strength and conditioning, and the focus was on all of that range of topics. And it gave me an idea of like different areas that I might want to go into after that. And then I just started to rule things out. So what I was interested in, and by the end of that, I was really interested in the physio side of it and the strength and conditioning side. So then I sort of did some work experience and looked down that route and applied for my master's in physio and continued to do that at Northumbria as well.
Oh, amazing. That's really interesting. I like how you've said there, ruling things out. I think sometimes students can get really bogged down with the idea of I have to find the perfect fit for me and it has to be first time, but that's just not really how life happens. And I know even for me, I was actually joking with some students today at a careers fair that I was at. I wanted to be a PE teacher, and I find that hilarious now because I'm the least sporty person in the world. But I do think your interests develop and change and grow as you get older and as you have exposure to different things. So that's interesting that you said about ruling things out. So how is it that you've ended up kind of doing the sports physio side alongside your NHS role?
Well, particularly with physiotherapy, if you want to be involved in sort of sports physio, you have to do the degree and do the healthcare side of it first.
Right.
So that I sort of started with that, and I went into the NHS. And then I've just always been interested in the sports side of it. I think my long-term vision when I went into physio was working with a big football club or with a Olympic sports team or something crazy.
Yeah.
like that. And I never actually thought I would start getting into that kind of sector. And I first just started by asking my own football club whether they wanted me to do any voluntary work. And this just involved me sort of coming slightly early to training, staying behind a little bit after, and just giving players advice or massages or like taping players if they had injuries. And it was very much just like voluntary based work, but it gave me a lot of knowledge around like sports injuries, and give me that sort of interest to take it further.
Yeah.
With that, I sort of started to build and started to think about maybe doing a injury clinic or something like that. So I've been doing that now and again on a weekends, just to again like build my knowledge, and if it's something that I want to continue to go into, I will. But yeah, so that then through that I sort of built links with a player in my football team that works for the police, and she plays for the GB women's police football team. And she was telling me that, you know, they're really in need of a physio. They've got the European Championships coming up this summer in Norway, and it's really important that they have a physio for all of the camps leading up to this, and so on. So I spoke to the manager and just give her all my details and all my background, and she was really interested in getting me involved. So I went to their first training camp last month in Manchester, and met all the players and did everything that I usually do. It was a little bit more intense because I had a little bit more of a active role in people's injuries, and even stuff like nutrition, and like performance enhancement as well, both on the pitch and off the pitch. So I guess building those networks has kind of helped me get into something that I'm really interested in, and start working in sport.
That's amazing. That's so cool, and such a good opportunity as well. I feel like getting involved, like you said, that being one of your goals initially, to get involved with kind of the big club or something like that, and the fact that you've now managed to do that is incredible, and really nice that you're doing it alongside your NHS role as well. If we think about that clinical role kind of in hospital, how have you found that? Is there anything that you have to do day to day that maybe you didn't expect would be involved, or?
Yeah, I guess there is. I didn't really expect myself to work in a hospital in general. I was that kid that didn't really like hospitals when I was younger, and I just couldn't really view myself doing it. But when I actually went and did my work experience, I really realized that working in the NHS and being a patient in the NHS are quite different things.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's day-to-day stuff. As a physio in the hospital, it's a lot about helping people recover from their illnesses or injuries, like post-surgery and things like that, and helping them to get back home. So promoting their independence. It might be making them more safe with the walking, you know, if they're an elderly person, giving them like a walking aid, really trying to sort of help them recover.
Yeah. So you mentioned there you didn't really imagine yourself being somebody that would work in a hospital, but like you said before, that is part of the training, isn't it? So to become a physio, you do have to do that clinical side in a hospital, even if you are looking to go into sports physiotherapy ultimately as a goal. Is that right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So and you do get some really good transferable skills. And some people do come out of university and go directly into private clinics and sport and things, and that's, you know, a great route to take. But working for an organisation like the NHS has been like fantastic for me, and I've built such a good network from it, and I've got so many good perks, and it's got a great opportunity for personal career growth and things like that. So it has been really good. And yeah, you have such a like positive impact on people's lives as well. So that's a really nice thing about working in the NHS.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, what do you enjoy most about your job? So I'm going to imagine it'll be something along those lines.
Yeah, it would be just to see like good outcomes. So you might see someone that's quite poorly, and then you see them as they recover, and you're helping them to get better as well. and helping them to rehabilitate and get home. And then when you see them get home, it's really nice.
Yeah.
And then in terms of sort of the sports section, the bit that I enjoy the most is when, obviously I don't want players to get injured to have some work to do, but when a player gets injured and then you're the one that's giving them, educating them on their injury, you're giving them advice on how to manage it, you're getting them, in the clinic doing different treatments, and then building their rehab into their sort of training diaries and things, and then getting them back on the pitch with the end goal of having them back into playing matches.
Yeah.
And you see that whole transition. And then when you see them playing and performing, it's like really satisfying.
Yeah. It must be good for you as well, because you're a player yourself. So I imagine you have a really good knowledge as well, obviously, of those sorts of things that might be more helpful within your physio role to somebody as a football player, because you kind of know the ins and outs of the game yourself.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Yeah.
Amazing. So we ask everyone this who we have on the podcasts, but we just wondered if you had any advice for year 11s who, or just young people in general, maybe considering a career in physio, or maybe just looking into roles related to sport. What advice would you give to a student in that position, or anything you wish you'd known yourself?
Mm-hmm. I think if you're quite an academic person and you're looking to go and do sort of a course or A levels or anything like that, I would definitely do like your generalized sort of sport courses or biology or something like that. That's going to give you like a broad knowledge by the end of it and open up lots of doors, in case you decide to go in one thing or another. So it's always good to keep your options open. I think if you don't know what you want to do and you're not quite sure, is to just start off really with a really broad topic. There are a couple of physio assistant kind of roles that they do now, which you can get in without a degree.
Yeah.
They also have physio apprenticeship schemes now, which they didn't have when I did my master's. I know that some people aren't really a fan of going to university, and there's lots of different routes to take as well. But yeah, I would just, if you're not too sure, just go for something that'll give you lots of options at the end of it. And also build on your communication skills. I think that's a really transferable skill, whether you work in healthcare or sport or anything else, is to be able to communicate with people effectively. Particularly in my role, I have to speak to a lot of patients' families, talk and have a lot of empathy for people and deal with people with concerns. And then again, with patients with their injuries, it's a similar sort of thing as well. So being able to communicate with people is really, really good, because in a big organisation that you work for, like the NHS, or even in sport, in like a sports science team with different coaches, and there might be other people involved, like nutritionists and physios, you have to be able to communicate with each other.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Amazing. That is fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm sure that's been really, really useful for the students as well. Just for anybody who is listening, we will have some relevant links to information about a role as a physiotherapist in the description of this video. But thanks so much, Sophie.
Thank you very much.